Welcome back to the Mountain Morning Show. I'm here with Bill Humbert, the author of Recruiter Guy's Guide to Finding a Job. Thanks for being on the show. Always good to have you in and let us know about what's happening as far as jobs go, whether you're an employer or a potential employee, some things to look into. So what we're going to talk about today is social media recruiting. So first off, kind of tell me, how does that work when people think social media recruitment? What does that entail?
Well, the recruiting process is a sales process, and it follows a sales process exactly. And sometimes people get confused with social media recruiting, thinking it's the recruiting process. It's actually just step 3 of the entire process. It's the sourcing piece. And it's just another way of getting your company out in front of the candidates. The problem with social media recruitment and any kind of recruitment sourcing is everything costs something. It either costs you money or it costs you time. And so if you have your a small or medium-sized company, you just need to understand that social media recruitment sourcing requires time. You can use Facebook, you can use Twitter, you use your own website. Those are all types of things that appear to be free, but social media, by its very definition, tries to engage the candidate, and that requires time.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's good to know. And of course, obviously that goes both ways, whether or not you're the employer or the one looking to get in touch with potential employers through social media. So what is really the commitment required when companies really commit to using social media recruitment?
The major commitment is time, because when you have a group of candidates engaged in social media recruitment, they're expecting to see new information out there often. Mm-hmm. And often could be once a week, often could be once a day. Mm-hmm. It's hard to do that though. You know, after you put a manager on YouTube and describing his or her position, how often is that manager going to want to do that? Mm-hmm. You know, and so after a while, the glimmer kind of wears off, and now you're back to the doldrums of, oh gosh, I got to get something out there this week. So it requires a time commitment, and some companies don't realize that going into it.
So so what do you feel is really the best balance for a medium-sized company in approaching potential employees in the way you're describing?
Well, obviously their website is important. Mm-hmm. And they can, marketing within a company typically owns the website. And that's the reason you don't see a lot of careers type things on the on the homepage. And you see careers in 6-point font down at the bottom.
I know, yeah, though I've experienced that before. We're like, where's the information? Like, it's just teeny down there.
Yeah,
so.
Some companies, we have a local company that doesn't even have it on their page. You know, you're going, where is it?
That's not very good.
Well, it's up to them. It's, marketing owns the page. And so one way around that is to use .jobs top-level domain. And so it would be recruiterguide.jobs, for instance. And that would take right to the jobs, but then on the menu on the left side, you give the people the opportunity to learn about the company as an employer, some of the fun things the company is doing. So it's a matter then of taping the fun things and putting them on YouTube in just little segments. Mm-hmm. Best not to put names of your employees on your social media, because then you have guys like me going, Chelsea, yay, I know her name now.
Yes, that's right. So you know exactly who you get in touch with.
Who to go after, yeah.
Yes. So tell me, if you're a company who really has not utilized social media yet to really improve your employee base or to bring in new people, what's the first way to start? Like, would you recommend, Facebook, Twitter all at once, or just one at first? If you are a smaller company and you can't really afford the time or the means to just kind of infiltrate everything at once, what would you recommend as the first step?
The first step is to do the fundamentals well. So get your website, your home company website, and do that well. And then once you have that practice and keeping information fresh there, then maybe go to Facebook and have your company page on Facebook. There's been a lot of press recently about companies using Facebook to go and look at the candidates. And I tell my clients, the law hasn't caught up to the technology yet, and you don't want to be part of an EEOC investigation. You don't want to get your name out that way. You don't want to be part of a class action suit. Stay away from that. But your company can be out there on Facebook. The purpose is to engage. But the question is, what happens when you've engaged a candidate that all of a sudden you decided is not the right person? And how do you socially disengage with that candidate? That's tough.
How do you do that? I want to know, because I would think that would just, obviously you want to keep like a good connection, because you don't want them to, say bad things about your company, though you didn't do anything wrong. You just decided they're not the right candidate. So that can create a lot of bad feelings. What's the way you would go about doing something like that?
Chelsea, I don't know. Sometimes the candidates that are almost, very occasionally, I've been doing this for over 30 years, very occasionally you'll have this candidate that's almost a stalker. And that person's going to be very passionate about their feelings. And, maybe you just slowly try to disengage with them.
Is blocking them not a good option?
Well, they're going to make a lot of noise if you do.
Yes, that's what I was saying. You probably don't want to do that, of course, unless it's actually, they're causing real harm or danger to your company. But that is kind of a sensitive issue, I would think.
Yeah, so you got to, you have to make judgments. And so that now we're talking about the other side of social media. Once you've made that commitment, what are some of the things that can happen, and be prepared to respond to those.
So say if you were someone who wanted to engage a company through social media and they start that interaction with you, what is, social media, of course, started out more as something where friends keep in touch, very informal, and now where's the balance between, that informality and now these, with the whole employment side, making it more formal? What's the correct way to approach that from both ends if you want to make a good impression while still trying to get the in with that company?
Well, probably the best way is through LinkedIn. LinkedIn again is social media, it's networking, and it's really as it's evolved become the professional side of social media, whereas Facebook for the most part is the social side of social media. And so I strongly suggest to both candidates and companies that they build up their LinkedIn networks, and that's a great way of identifying great candidates who might be more passive candidates, really not looking, but it's a way of connecting with them. And
I like how you bring in LinkedIn, because I'm personally, like with my LinkedIn account, you're right, like it is much more formal, of course, though you still are allowed to interact in the same way you would with other social media, but you're kind of given that more professional standard, the way you interact with people on that basis, and it's very nice to have that.
It's perfect, yeah, and plus people can recommend your work on LinkedIn. And that makes it easier for recruiters to look and say, wow, Chelsea looks I really like the things she's done, and try to connect and draw you into a conversation with them. So social media is sourcing. It's the sourcing piece of the recruiting process. The needs analysis is the interview, and that's on both sides. That's is this the right position for me from a candidate's perspective, and this the right candidate for us from a corporate perspective? And then you go right down through the close and acceptance and delivery of the candidate.
All right. Well, any last tips or advice that you could give to potential employees or employers who are looking to go about hiring in the way you're describing?
Well, the employee side, I would strongly suggest they use all the higher levels of security, because if they have drinking pictures,
you don't want that on your account if you are looking to use that for a job search. You're right.
Yep. And then from the corporate side, I would say make sure you understand the commitment to time that social media is going to require and the commitment to engagement.
All right.
So.
Well, excellent tips for both sides of the job search going on. So thank you so much, Bill Humbert, for coming in and letting us know about those tips. Like I was saying, employers or potential employees, if they're looking to utilize social media as a means to get hired or to hire, because we've kind of seen as social media has developed over the years, it's becoming a very important part of that process, I think, and will continue to be so in the coming years.
Yes, it will continue to evolve. And it'll be interesting to see where it evolves.
It will,
Yeah.
yes. Yeah. All right, thank you so much, Phil, for being on the Mountain Morning Show. And we're going to be right back here after the break with more for your national forecast. Stay with us.